So without any further ado, I want you to give a great Memphis welcome to Jimmy H. out of Chicago, Illinois. Come on, Jimmy.
Well, look at this. Well, will you listen to this and can you see this? I can. Oh, yes, I can. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you. It's a kind of a prayer of man, I think. Thank you. I have to say it over and over all through my day because you have presented me with a day. Never did I ever believe that there were anyone like you all. Yes, I'm finding out a lot about life, from strife to life through you. And you know, my life has been so limited. And today, because of the AA way, is not nearly as limited as it once was. I have a very limited formal education. But I am getting the education of my life here. Oh, yes, I am. Yes. First thing, when my sponsor, Ted, that's my sponsor. His name is Ted. And he said a lot of things to me, and especially when he began to see that the stoppers were popping out of my ears. Stoppers popping out of your ears, Black Fool? Yes, stoppers. Stoppers, they were rammed and jammed and locked and blocked. I didn't know it. Ted said so. He saw them when they began to come out. He saw the skin begin to peel off of my eyes, too. Ted could see well. I was wondering, Ted could see a lot. Ted saw me before I could see me. A lot of things Ted began to swing into me because of this weed. I want to thank you all. I want to thank you all, Brother Milton, and so many other the brothers and sisters. See, I know some people may get a little upset. I got some relatives, they say in my bloodline, they get upset when I talk about them as my cousins and my aunties and so forth. I don't want to get into one all turn around here because I call you my brothers and sisters. I don't just call you that. You are man, my brothers and sisters. So don't think I'm going back, going to the church act that I was in once. I used to act up on everything. I didn't know how great the church was or how great a family was and how great you are. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And I don't know very much now, but I'm learning. I'm learning how to learn here. I didn't know I had to learn how to learn. But through you, I'm learning a whole lot of things here. I don't know too many fancy, although I have heard the word of quite a few of you who had the command of the English language. I heard you describe. I heard you talking and singing about some treasures that comes from people like you or family like this. I heard them. I could hear them, and it was hard for me to hear in those days. I wasn't thinking about coming in no place like this or looking for any better day or a new way. They found me. I was laying up before those veteran hospitals in Chicago was founded, the one they got a West Side VA over on Damon and Taylor. Anyone been around that place? I was in there on the 7th and 8th floor. You know what the 7th floor was and is. It's a nut ward. And that's where I was, and that's where I needed to be. Before they built that place, my coming out of the Army, I didn't want to come out of the armed forces. No, I didn't. I wanted to stay in. I told them. They said, the war is over with. I said, you can't get back in here. They told me that. I didn't want to come out. I wanted to stay in the army, that great army. I wanted to stay in there. Not that I was so patriotic. I wanted to be fed and fed. God, go out there paying rent and trying to scuffle up on food, something to eat, because I knew, somehow, some way I knew that I wasn't responsible. I didn't have the responsibility of feeding myself. But those guys were pretty nice to me. They told me. They said, you're going out and we're trying to get you in shape. They said, first thing, your lungs are gone, you weigh 119 pounds, you're thin as a Gillette razor blade. And they said, you had better quit smoking. You better quit smoking if you want to live these next 2 years. And I told them where to go and what to do. And I switched from old goals to cool. But 1 year after you got a hold of me, something happened. My sisters and my brothers, something happened to me from this we, which is the key. Something happened. I started to like me. I started to like me. This was a big thing. A big thing. Anybody in here who don't like themselves? Any time of that big lifetime of a day, if you don't like any moment of this day about yourself, please give yourself a chance and stick right to it. I think old Franklin Williams used to talk about that stick-to-itiveness. And a lot of people probably didn't know or forgot. Chicago isn't my home. My home is a little bit south of here. It's a little town called Shelby, Mississippi. Shelby. But they got a hold of me through a guy I call a white dude when I was lying on a floor up on that 8th floor in the biggest post office in the world on Canal and Van Buren. There was a guy called Francis Quinn. I can't ever forget Francis Quinn. Francis Quinn. Francis Quinn. It's a kind of a rhythm of music to me. My life as a song. In fact, this whole program is about rhythm. It's about music. The symphony of the universe. When I first heard the words and saw the live rhythm that was coming from How It Works, I began to call it that when the stoppers were popping out of my ears, the song of life and love, How It Works. There was music in that room. It was music in my life creeping in. There was music. I don't know. I used to ask my sponsor. It took a lot of courage for me to ask Ted something that seemed to be off the wall, because I'm an off-the-wall guy today. Right today, I'm a little bit getting better, but I'm way out there, way off the wall. That's what people tell me. That's why I was so glad to see Kitty Lou. I saw Kitty Lou. I've been thinking, I have Kitty Lou's old address, creep on new address, because Kitty Lou, Bud, and then a sister of mine. See, and I'll try to explain this sister thing and brother too, because I know what kind of a brother I would be to anyone to concentrate on me being a relative of theirs, see. But I was thinking about Teresa. She was telling me out there about that circle we were talking about quite a few years ago. There are a lot of things I'm getting from you, and especially here. I said I want to thank you. I have to get back to this because my man skip, hops, and jumps, knife, and slice through conversation, and I lose points and things. I have to take the tip of the top, the cream of the crop off of you and present it back to you, because this little discussion here is about you, not me. It's about you. I want to tell you something about you. Now, I guess you might say, well, what is that chump talking about, that monkey talking about? He's going to tell us something about us, and we never seen that fool before. Yes, but I've seen you. I have seen you, and I felt you. In rooms like this, all over this country, and outside of this country, I've been given the privilege and the pleasure to make sessions like this, great meetings like this, through a lot of effort and spirit that cause things like this to happen for a fool like me. Yes, thank you for taking your precious time out of your day to come into this AA Way room, because there are a lot of action going on in here. There are a lot of spiritual qualities being sifted and shifted around and sharing through caring in here. Yes, thank you. I want to thank you for taking your precious time out of your day to come in here and to show, to share, showing that you care, to give a chance to a monkey like me to live, and by your giving. Yes, this is something to see. I heard that the first time. I used to hear people down in Mississippi talk about hearing a sermon. Did you hear that sermon? See, that preacher, I started finding out about a sermon in a new way when I came into the AA Way. Yeah, I heard them and I saw them talking about seeing a sermon. Seeing a sermon, wasn't that something? I heard it. And I learned to listen. This is something. I couldn't read or write when I creaked and seeped in here, or I stumbled and fumbled and quivered and shivered. I didn't come in here looking for any new way, a new day. I came in on an angle. I'm an angle shooter. I'm a double-dealing, jabbing, conniving, short-cutting, scheming, pretending, thieving, black fool. That's just a little bit of what I was, and still have a little of that old stuff still seeping through. But I'm learning, my sisters and brothers. I am learning. I am learning. I know I skip, hop, and jump, and I try. I try to think of what you mean to me and put it into words. I said I heard the words of a lot of people like you way before I knew who you were and who you are. And it sounds good to even a phony like me. Then, and I find a lot of little phoniness and maybe big ones still lurking in me. But I know. Well, I can't say I know, because I know that there's very little that I know, but I am learning. I am learning. Learning how to learn, and it is exciting. You are an exciting people. I'll tell you about this sister and brother thing. I have to hurry, because I know you have something to do other than listen to me to tell you about you. Please don't get a headache right away, because they tell me I give headaches, a pain in the brain when I try to describe and the things that you are doing to, with, and for me. Because I said I have heard the words of quite a few of you who have the command of the English language. And this description that you gave of this, the treasures that lies here, was so miraculous to me even then. But after my coming in and beginning this wonderful way, I am finding out that not even those who had the command of the English language, they couldn't begin to give the words and their great abilities of the language, couldn't describe the full treasures that come out of here. I don't believe it. I don't believe there are any words on this planet that can really describe the treasures that you present. I don't. Because things are happening to, with, and for me. Something is coming out of these 12 steps. A lot of it isn't even written there. I tell people about my sponsor. I have a sponsor. His name is Ted. And Ted, I used to wonder about Ted had a 4th grade formal education. I knew I had way more education formal than Ted. I finished grammar school. But I wonder, yes, I know you're laughing at Ted, but see, Ted was 4th grade. I know who you're laughing at, because Ted, I kind of laughed at him too. But I looked out of all my life, I began life here. Came from strife to life, and I began to find out how come Ted was so smart. I have never seen another man. I haven't. I know I got dim eyes. Dim. Not the dim that I used to use in trying to say them. They're trying to be from my education. But see here, Ted told me, he said, you're in a way of life now program about changes. Isn't that something? He started telling me about that when I quivered and shivered in here, but he saw the stoppers coming out, and he knew that I was ready. Something had happened to me. Because when I came in, I was like a frozen zombie and a petrified mummy. I was the Iceman. I heard and I saw a picture once about the Iceman. See, it had about maybe 30,000 years ago. That's a long time. He was frozen when they found, and then the way they broke through, I'm not here to tell you about that, but I'm talking about another ice who's worse than this Iceman. Not 30,000 years, and he did well coming out of that ice and all those years, but then you had me. As I began to defrost, I was like a frozen mummy, a petrified zombie. And as I began to thaw out, I began to peep and see and get a glimpse of you. And then the fog started coming off and the stuff, and I began to focus in on you. I began to see you better and hear and listen. And after a while, I began to move and I heard some words, and you told me who you were. As you described you and talked about you, you introduced me to you. You told me all about you, and I began to laugh with you. We were down here the first time I heard you laughing, but I heard you talking about some sad things, and you were laughing. Then I heard you talking about some glad things. And I knew that you were telling the truth because those things began to ring and sing into my spirit. It was coming alive. And then I heard you talking about sad and mad things, and I began to cry with you. Cry, but not tears of self-pity, but of joy. I heard you talking. And as you talked about you began to talk about me. And as you talked about me, as I came out of this deep freeze, I began to see me. You introduced me to me way after I met you. So I met you way before I met me. You started helping me to take off these masks. I had 1 million masks on. Unmasked, black fool. Yes, take them off. That's what Ted said. He began to see me cry. He began to see me laugh. And I began to look and see and remember names. See, this don't mean nothing to a lot of people, and I'm letting you know how you acted and how you reacted and slung and brung. You brought me into this life from strife. And then I began to recognize. I saw Tim and Slim and Billy and Willie, Hank and Frank, Lou and Sue. I began to see him. I said, Thelma. I jumped up from my seat. Ted said, he had a special seat for me. And every time I'd come to my meeting, I'd come in, and I didn't know. I'd just go to my seat, and then I'd sit down, and then he said, go get your own coffee now. And I would go and get my own coffee. And I never made it back with a cup full. I want the full cup. I was greedy. And I'd run the coffee over, and when I get back to the seat, it would be about a third full. I didn't know I looked back, and girls and guys was wiping up my coffee and smiling. I never met any people like you. You started bringing me in, sisters and brothers. One day, my sponsor said, let's go. Let's go. We're going to Notre Dame. Ain't this something? Notre Dame. I had heard some words about that. Notre Dame. Some guy there was talking about, and it was in July, some football or something about a rock or some loot or some kind of rock. And I said, this is the middle of July when there wasn't a snow cloud in the sky, no football, and I wouldn't say anything to Ted. I wouldn't ask him, I wouldn't question him because I was scared of Ted. Ted said, let's go. That's all he had to say. He was my sponsor. He was my AA sponsor. That meant something to me. Ted presented the best to me. He told me this is about changes. This whole program is about nothing remains the same, Ted said. You don't take no vacation here, no recess, no time out in AA. But he knew that I had ventured through all that fog and smog. I was coming out, and you know you can tell when your baby starts coming out of that fog and smog. You know it when you see them. You peep over at them. You peep at them sometimes, and they'll be maybe making little jumps and popping. Things are popping in them. See, that old stuff popping in them. They'll jump and look around. Nobody looking at them. Nobody paying any degrading attention to them. They smile. This guy got to walk, get the quivering and the shivering out of him. See, I had to do it. And those people would look at it. You see, when you start getting that out of it, and then they know you're coming through. So Ted would tell me things. He would say, let's go. No suggestion. They always talk about my sponsor suggests, AA suggests. He didn't suggest nothing to me. He said, let's go. And I was on my way. And we would go. He would go all out. We were going to a place called Notre Dame. I didn't hear about South Bend, but I was remembering that big town with all those crosses and playing those football in the July. But we got there, I went into that retreat house hall, and I saw it on the wall, a plaque. And I see them in all AA rooms. It's something to get my attention. It's just like the melodies of songs and things. Easy does it one day at a time. Easy does it. And Ted would tell me about them every now and then. We would take walks in the park. He would hold my hand. He would hold my hand. I thought he was kind of gay. Well, I didn't know. It didn't make any difference. He would hold my hand, and I found out he didn't want me to run. I don't know. He would hold my hand, and he didn't know if I was gay or not, and I didn't either, and don't now. So it don't make any difference about that. I found out through Ted, and you all, I'm talking about me now. I'm talking about me. We would hold hands and go out in a great big park on the south side called George Washington Park. And we would go out there and sit down a big lagoon, and he would hold my, he'd turn my hand loose and drop it. And then he would point. Didn't say a word. He would point up at a tree, and the birds would fly up and sit down. And then the wind was blowing. We would go out there all during the week, maybe 3 times a week. And we would look, and the leaves would grow, and he would touch me, and he'd say, and I would look, and I would look in the water. He would point. And that's what we would do. I was getting familiar with nature. I could hear music. I could hear the trees blowing. I could hear those leaves and twigs. And I would get some quietness in here. And we would go out there. And I liked that. I liked going to the park later on. After a while, he didn't grab my hand no more. I want to grab his. I want to, come on, let's go. The same thing. I have an addictive nature. I wanted to hold Ted's hand. I wanted to squeeze it. That was good. It was healthy. Something happened to me when I held his hand. We went to the park. We went to the park. Never did I go through a park looking for anything. Always in big joints like the Silver Spoon or the Blue Moon. One of those places. Or go up to Big Ethel's House of Joy or Cousin Carrie's. All those places. In the park. Notre Dame, get back to Notre Dame. I'm talking about you, my sisters and brothers. This is something that happened to me. We walked into that retreat house hall, and I saw it on the wall, a plaque. And I started hollering. I said, look, the lobby was full. People signing in from New York, Cleveland. This was over everywhere. I'd never been to a retreat. I didn't know what a retreat was. And my sponsor, Ted, told me, he said, keep quiet. He said, blacks don't go around all in here. He said, did you hear my sponsor when he told you about how hard it was to get in AA in South Bend when his brother-in-law wanted to get in? He said, I couldn't hear him. I couldn't hear no one. I could see a plaque. And I saw what you had been doing to, with, and for me. It was ringing in. And that plaque goes like this. Gave me an identification of you. You were the one that was growing into me. Yes, the conductors, the people who were sharing and caring. It goes like this. I sought my God, but my God eluded me. I sought my soul, but my soul I could not see. But when I sought my sisters and brothers, say, now I'm finding all three. Something happened. There was a ringing and a singing and an identification. And I was pointing. I said, look, Ted, look. That priest was signing them in. He said, he wants that. And Ted said, we'll pay for it. They said, he don't mean no harm. He's new. He said, oh, no. That's what they told me, he said. I couldn't hear him or no one. I was launched in another dimension. And he said, he can have it. He can have it. I got that plaque over the head of my bed today. Yes, I have. I sought my God, but my God eluded me all the way down to my sisters and brothers. I began to find out who you were and who you are. I have been so limited. I didn't know I had these many sisters and brothers. I didn't know that all this, I am not, AA is making things not so limited anymore. I got a big family. I thought that I only had black brothers and sisters, and a lot of them didn't care to be called labor with me. And I know why. I know why. It didn't take long because you began to launch me up to another level. They have something there where you begin to help. We better talk about another subject matter, honesty. That's a good one. A good subject matter here about what you've been presenting to me, honesty. I didn't know anything about honesty. I'm learning today. I don't know too much, but I'm beginning to identify what you have been trying to share with this monkey here so I can get those treasures, those values of high level, so I can act like you. I try to act like you. I try to be you. People say, man, why don't you try to learn to be yourself? To be myself. I knew I didn't like me. I didn't like me when I put on a lot of masks getting away from me. See, I'm not talking about racism, and I'm not talking about politics. I am not talking about religion or sociological and all that big long word thing. I'm talking about the eyes and ears and spirit, true spirit of Alcoholics Anonymous, and what it has done and still doing to, with, and for me. Giving me something I never had a taste of. Faith, trust, confidence, and belief. Sisters and brothers, the preachers talk about that a lot in church. Faith, trust, confidence, and belief. Faith, trust, confidence, Alcoholics Anonymous. Yes, that's who you are. I am not saying that so when you come into Alcoholics Anonymous, you can say, everyone come in AA, they're sisters and brothers. No, Lordy. Not saying that, because I know if you just have to select me for your brother, you got something else on your hand. I found that out when you helped to tiptoe me way up to that fourth step. Fourth step, inventory. Inventory, Ted said. Ted took a lot of time in presenting this high-level subject matter coming through and from you to me. He said, now this word inventory, black fool, it means, it was taken from a Latin word meaning oneness with truth. Oneness. I had to hear this over and over and over and over. After a while, it was so, I began to get in rhythm. And one day, fourth step, I couldn't think about taking that fourth step. Ted said this whole program was based on honesty. I can hear him now. People tell me my sponsor, Ted, is dead. I said, no, Ted ain't dead. It ain't dead. My sponsor is alive. Just like these steps are, because Ted told them. One day I ran to Ted because somebody upset me anywhere. I run to my sponsor. And I'll tell you something, I know where my sponsor is all the time. People tell me, I don't know where my sponsor is. It's hard to catch hold of my, it ain't hard for me to catch hold to my sponsor because that's my business, is to find my sponsor, Ted, and I learned how to bring him into me, just like I do you this week. I take my meetings with me. Yes, I do. I take you with me. Don't ask me how, and I don't have any words to this. I said I have heard the words. Look, and when I came in and beginning this wonderful way, I don't think that, because I found out something about Dr. Bob and Bill and those 100. I am learning today. Me and Bud used to sit down and talk. Around here, Arlie Henderson, all them guys around here. See, I pick up, that's why I love coming to Memphis, Tennessee. They say, man, you putting property, I tell them, Tennessee, to Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee. I have all kind of ways of talking about Memphis. Yes, I do. Memphis. Yes. Arlie Henderson said not long ago, I think it was in 93 or 4, when I bumped back into Kitty Lou, me and Kenny Lou. I used to go to those meetings down on Union all around. I don't remember the street so well because I'm losing a whole lot of things that I was born with, and I'm kind of glad a lot of it. But it's a whole lot of things that I was born with and supposed to have. I don't have them that I needed. But I tell you what, I cannot lose what you and Ted have been shooting to me. This I can't lose. I can give it and share it. I try. Because I know what it means. I hear people talking about, oh, that guy's so full of love. And I told the guy, I said, full of love? I said, what does that mean? Ted told me, he said, full of love. When you see somebody full of something, that ain't healthy. He said, love ain't to be full of. Love is moving. Love is channeling through. Love, you don't stuff up and pack up and get constipated on love. Love puffs you up. Love, you got to give it. Live it. Constantly. No, full of love. I learned what love is. See, I have to skip, hop, and jump, knife and slice, and kind of trickle in because I can't give you word for word in any organized way and telling you about you. You are something. When you take a person come in here, even if they're jiving, see, I'm the greatest jiver. I'm a phony and a skip, hop, and a jump. I hear the people got little words. Say, you got to fake it till you make it. You fake it till you make it. And it sounds retarded to me because I'm a faker. I'm a natural faker before they started that out. You got to fake it till you make it. See, if you fake it till you make it, well, you ain't going to never. You fake it. You keep faking. If you're like me, you just fake on past making it because you don't know anything. I'm a faker. I say, where's making it? They say, you faked on past making it back there. Faking it. You got to work at honesty. I tried to jump on honesty. Latin word meaning oneness with truth. Oneness with opinion to the attitude to the action of the fact. No fork words that define anything. You find that in a lot of things. Now I know there may be some preachers here, but I'm learning what a preacher, if people had listened, if I could have listened to the preachers probably in the church and really took all that in, but you see, I'm finding out in this week that I was so sick, mama, no one, and a lot of people look at me today and say, that monkey, and I've been in this way of life way over 15 years or 35 years. I've been over just not using it. But my sponsor told me 2 years after I was in here, I hadn't used a drug, done it. He said, today you're in AA. He wasn't counting when I was dry. When he seen me begin to apply instead of defy these 12 steps. and the directions that you presented in your lifestyle. They say, man, don't try to practice my program. He said, if you try to practice my program, then you liable to get drunk. And my sponsor Ted say, when they say that, you tell them, yes, you're about right. And if I practice my program, I wouldn't even get a chance. But if I practice the AA program, that's what this is, Ted said to me. He wasn't talking to nobody else. I don't know what your sponsor, but I know you're here. Your sponsor tells you the truth. My sponsor said you can develop a lifestyle, your lifestyle here, through the AA way. And how I got here, I got to hurry up. You see, the tip of the top, the cream of the crop, you're doing so much until, you see, in your actions, you can't jive and connive and angle shoot and double deal in here. See, you tell on yourself. People say, oh, you taking my inventory. You don't have to take no one's inventory in Alcoholics Anonymous. They give you their inventory. That's what Ted said. You don't have to take nobody's inventory. Taking mine. So Ted told me, said, you don't worry about all that. See, there's a little point. I learned that right up in here. I started learning so much from you. You give out so much. You make a fool like me, a black fool like me. Never, ever did I like me. Here I am. I learned to like myself right here. I had a lot of help. That was a so-called white dude. I call him that when I first saw his hand in my hand. I looked up, laying on the floor in the postal system. Everybody looking down at me, it seemed. Foremen, supervisors, union members, and some strange faces with ties on and everything. They were inspectors from Washington. They be in all these post offices all over the United States and all over wherever they're the government post office. They were policemen. And they caught me stealing cigarettes in the post office. They caught me. And this guy that was lifting me up off the floor with his hand in my hand was Francis Quinn. Francis Quinn was superintendent of outgoing mail. And nowhere in his job description was any kind of message that he was supposed to risk his career on a thieving black fool. But he did. He did, and he was doing it. And later on, after even getting with you, I couldn't believe it. He was breaking some traditions in my life. He was breaking them. And I was getting aware because Francis Quinn had contacted me and sent me to Ted because he told those inspectors. And that's when the moment of truth came, way before I recognized what was happening. When he had his hand in my hand and I looked up at that man, I knew he had his hand in the hand of a dying man. The moment of truth came. And I knew the moment of truth has hit a couple of more times. On 43rd Street on the south side of Chicago, a guy had a knife on my neck, and I could feel something trickling down my neck. And the moment of truth came, I began to become aware of who and where I was, and I could feel the last moments coming in. And a young girl about 2 years older than me, she was there telling him, say, brother, don't kill him. Don't kill him. And a lot of people were around. But I heard her. She said, don't kill him. He ain't worth it. She said, don't kill him. You're going to have to lose a day's work just fooling with him. He ain't worth it. I couldn't say a word. I had taken that girl out car riding, my stepfather's car. I stole his car, see. So, took her out riding. She bought some shrimps and everything. And I took her shrimps and asked her to walk, act. And she walked. And she told her brothers. And her brothers working in the post office. And I had some pretty tough dudes hanging around me. I don't want to go through all these stories, but I have to let you know what type of monkey that's standing before you now and how the moment of truth hit me. You see, things happen. And that boy, he was right, and I knew he was right. But this moment of truth, this force this source that you call God, Jesus, Jehovah, Allah, Buddha, any spiritual development programs, Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, Hinduism, whatever you believe in. And I believe in I believe in you believing in whatever you believe in, because it's through you that I was able to come into Alcoholics Anonymous and develop a belief of my own. And I don't have any form of religion, and I am not proud of it, and I am not jiving or conniving and trying to raise myself above. But today I can't come in and say, who are you? Say, I'm a Catholic or I'm a Baptist, because I was baptized when I was 6 years old in Shelby, Mississippi. I always want to be with the big guys in the winter. But in Shelby, Mississippi, they baptize little black kids down there whenever you get down wrong. And they caught up with me when I was 6 years old. And then my mama moved to Chicago. We left there in 25 and then came back to resell some things. She was a seamster down there. She serviced and sold for the whole Sunflower County. But anyway, I came back and we made it in 28, something like that, 1928. As soon as I got to Chicago, they baptized me again as a retake in Baptist, because they caught me stealing some oranges and apples from South Water Market. And then my mama sent me to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to a school, a Catholic school up there called St. Benedict, a black saint. I didn't know they had black saints. St. Benedict. So I went there, and I was baptized again. So I was baptized as a Catholic and confirmed. So you see, I've been baptized, sprinkled, drenched, and darn near drowned looking for this launching power. But that wouldn't do, because I hadn't met you. That's why you are the great. Look, I am getting something from you that nobody, nowhere, had ever found that point. My sponsor, Ted, said this program is about the highest level of being. After he told me it was about changes, it was about total action, body, mind, and spirit, and then and it was about, which means spiritual. The highest level of being, which means spiritual to you, black fool, Ted said. And then he told me this program is it's an educational center. And I didn't know. One day he sent me, well, I'm just going to close it out in a minute, but I know this is really headacheish, and I'm going to bring some Tylenol or something next time I ever find you to pass it out. And this isn't a joke. I know what it is. Some people say, man, say, hurry up, tell me how not to drink, and that's all. See, this isn't about not drinking. I found out this program is not about not drinking, or sniffing, or snorting, or cinching, or flinching, or knocking, or blocking, or using any mood change or mind-altering drugs. It ain't about this. Sickness ain't about that. Because I have a sponsor, his name is Ted, and he said some things to me that open up these stuffed up, slam jam some stopper poppers out of my ears and drawed even me around to listen. On page 19 of the big book, the big book. See, when I talk about you and the music sheets, this is something that will help you find your pace to occupy your place in this space. This has no jive to it at all. No angle shooting, a double dealing, and jive in here. Oh, no. Or you can do it all you want to. See, this will face you up to the moment of truth. Moment of truth. That truth will sing to you. That guy told me, Ted, this guy Mac Harris, he told me one day, he said, you way up to that fourth step, and he said, you whine head, he said, Ted's got you over there talking about these steps to jump off of the wall, because they have them on every wall in the meetings. So usually I go to the 12 steps in the 12th tradition. And Ted told me, after Mac Harris told me, he told me I was traveling too fast, doing too many things, because I quit smoking that first year. And those old timers were smoking like a chimney and a freight train. But I wasn't trying to follow nobody doing that. I found out. And I believe I was dying. And I didn't like myself. But when I get with you all, something happened to me. When I learn to like myself, I don't do anything unnecessarily harmful to myself knowingly. I quit smoking my first year. That was no big thing. And I began to yell and tell. I said, I quit smoking. I didn't think nobody knew that you could quit smoking with these principles. And so they were whispering around that group. He gonna get drunk. He's trying to do too much. And my sponsor told me that it ain't nothing too much in AA. It makes the impossible become possible. I talk with Frog and a lot of other people, and a lot of people that know about the impossible. A new guy coming in like tonight, Ted used to tell me about moving a building. Now that looks impossible and out of your mind, talking about one guy moving a building or one girl. But Ted began to break it down to even a chump like me. Moving a building, he came in as he usually do on a Saturday morning on 825 East 50th Street where we got our first clubhouse. Old Ted walked in and said, we're going to move a building today. It sung, that thing ring. I said, move a building? I hit the guy next to him. I said, what he said. I was still talking retarded and do it now. I said, yeah, but he said, he joked in my little one cell that was developing up there. I'm moving a building. Move a building. They'd say, now we're going to move a building this morning. He said, but the way we're going to do it is we're going to break it down to where we can handle it. He began to draw out a plan where even a monkey like me could learn to handle life. Sisters and brothers, that's what he was beginning to do. I didn't know what was coming through, but I listened because that was my sponsor, Ted. He was talking. I wanted to catch him in something. Ted started talking. He said, we're going to move this building. We're going to break it down. We're going to move it. One nail, one pipe, one bulb, one brick, one plank, one pane at a time. We're going to move this building across the street and even across the town. I said, listen to that. I hit the guy. He said, Ted says that every day. Don't do that no more. I was excited. It's a toy. He said, this is the way we live life in Alcoholics Anonymous. We live life, not 70 as it is stated in the Bible, Ted said. He said, but we break it down to where we, and a fool like me, could handle it. Even a fool like me. Not 70. He said, we break it down to one day. One day, my sisters and brothers. Isn't that something? One day and one look at me, you knew one day was too big. But you had a measurement that would even fit a monkey like me. Yes, you did, and yes, you do. Please listen to me about you. You whipped it on me. You really threw the curves. You threw the smashing. You began to sock it, grill it, grind it, pound it, hammer it, until you soaked it to me, until it began to sink to me. You said, one day, 1 hour, 1 minute, right now. One day, 1 hour, 1 minute, right now. Don't drink. And you can think if you don't drink, and then look at that. And then when you do that, don't drink, and you can think you won't have the need to drink. There's a new rhythm. There's something that happens to you. I can't explain it in words. I said after I came in, and there are a lot of things that won't, and I told Ted told me about these steps, and I'm going to put a muzzle on step. He told me one day, he said, don't pay any attention to that old timer. And he gave me a step to take. That Mac Harris said I couldn't take that fourth step. I wasn't in here long enough. And he said, here's a step I want you to take, black fool. And you know what it was? It wasn't even on the wall or come out of the book. It was a big step into these meetings. He said, you take this step and keep taking this step, and after a while, these steps will take you. He said, and they'll bring you through. How true from me to you. Because you know what happened? I began to not struggle and tell people they got to take me through. There are people can take you through the steps. They'll take you. You may drag. They'll take and drag you through them. But Ted, he was talking to me. Now, I'm not breaking down any other sponsor. I'm telling you what Ted said to me. And they would whip it around there and say, you know what that monkey said? That these steps going to take him. There were a lot of scheme guys from the post office had to throw schemes. Say, you got to study these steps, and you do. They ain't got nothing to do but reciting them and all that. It's got something to do with study. But sometimes they can go through you, nestle in you, don't even know it. I kept taking these steps, and something happened to me. I would hear them being read, and something would ring and sing all through my body. And one day, like Ted said, you will awaken when these steps have taken you, and then something will happen. You begin to know that you got to share, and you learn to care. But you find out you can't give what you don't have, and you can't share what you don't possess. Oh boy. Then you know you must take these steps. But then there's no struggle. After they've taken you, it doesn't take, you'll be walking around and say, Mickey White, come on, let's go take him. I talked to Villa. Come on, Villa. Those steps, the second, the third, the fourth. First, admit. It's like an accordion. I got to put on like an accordion from the 12 steps and the first 164 pages. When that accordion is open, that music is playing. Ring, ding, the full message, 164, that accordion jammed up. I learned, I said, what? My sponsor said Dr. Bob and Bill and those 100, they hadn't taken those steps written down. Those steps had taken them. Those steps had taken them because in 1939, those steps wasn't written until they wrote them in 1939, but they called them together. Dr. Bob and Bill, Ted said, these people talking about what won't take you. He said, and he called them, he said, we have done something. We have been working a program. We got to go somewhere and write them. We got to write them. We got to write it down so other people, we have been doing something. Those steps had taken them. They hadn't even been written. Spiritual principles, rules of conduct, and fundamental truth. Yes, they had. Comes through faith, trust, confidence, and belief, and a desire that was set on fire. I'll tell you, you don't have to preach and jump up and down and act like a clown like me, but I'm excited about you this week, which is the key. I have to let you know how it happened, what's happening to me. The impossible become possible. My family looked and said, what's happening to him? He must be on something else. Here's a guy that don't drink. He don't have to do it. I didn't have to explain it to them. I didn't have to go around trying to explain nothing because I had a sponsor, Ted, and I had you. And I had two white brothers that came on the south side of Chicago. Please listen to me while I close this out. It happened. I'm talking about life. Two white brothers that broke old traditions. They came on the south side when the first black came into AA. This ain't about no racism or politics or religion and being the first and all like that, but I have to give it to you like it is. But it's telling about this great program, the 12 steps, how they'll do what nothing else have done to give a monkey like me and a lot of people like me and you faith, trust, confidence, and belief in themselves and in life. Two white brothers were sent over. Never will forget their name, Norm Roberts and Fred Forham. They came over to give the first black. Earl Redmond worked in that post office where I worked. He was working that way before me. But they brought that message to him because he had gotten out of a place. And they told him that they were going to send him to AA if he wanted. He said, okay, to try to keep his job. And so they sent these two guys over there. And they knew they couldn't take him to an AA meeting. No, people talk about the South and everything. Talking about Chicago. Chicago. Everybody want to hire something. That wasn't nothing wrong. That was normal. It was normal not having a lot of things. You just accept things. So those two white brothers came over there, named Fred Forham and Norm Roberts, and they kept them, and they stayed there. They didn't go back home. They broke tradition. Said, what are you staying over in that territory? Say, you're messing up. They stayed there. Their home groups was there. They made it that group after 3 or 4 months. Fred Forham and Norm Roberts, they said, this is, where do you live? He lived at 6757 Evans Avenue. Wherever Evans, a lot of people say, why do you call this the Evans Avenue group and it's on 75th and Cottage? Why do you call this the Evans Avenue group when it's on 825 East 50th Street? Why do you call this Evans Avenue group and it's on 76 something in Cottage Grove? Say, because two white brothers gave us that name because they know they couldn't take Earl Redmond to an AA meeting in Chicago. The first meeting there, it was brought in from the east by Earl Treek. Earl Treek wasn't a Chicagoan, but he brought that message in. He brought it in from Cleveland and the Founders Home. He brought it in, and he didn't live in Chicago. He lived in Evanston. That's in the archives. The other message ain't in the archives, but it's in ours, because we knew when that fire of desire hit that south side, there were mothers and daughters and grandmothers that began to glow and flow from this glow. after that, those white boys brought that message there. And they stayed there. In 1947, they said, we got to tell Earl Treek down on 304, 302 East Randolph that we got these black brothers got to get to an AA meeting, although they had the big book and everything else. So they called him. They said, no, we're going over to his house. Earl Treek lived in Evanston. They say, this is showing you how great AA is. Not talking about old traditions. There are great traditions. There are some traditions don't live true to what you say. And that's what I used to tell my mom. Yeah, I'm a little boy. I can't see her trying to go by old tradition. See, those guys came and they went to Earl Treek's house. It's in the traditions of the South. They went to his home and they told him, say, we got to get this group. It's growing. There were 3 white brothers. 3 white brothers. One of them was Joe Diggles, the last one. He had been overseas in 41, came back. He was an AA member. Then there were 4 blacks. One of them came in March. That was Earl Redmond. And the last one came in was my sponsor's sponsor, Bill Williams. He's still alive, 93 or 4. You don't count him no more. He's over 50. See? And he's right there. He had a tailor shop. He was constantly showing. That's why later on they went over to see Earl Treek. They said, look, we're coming down there next open meeting. Well, he said, you can't come. He said, don't bring them boys in there yet. He said, give me 90 days. And they wanted to argue. That was Joe Diggles and Fred Forham. They wanted to argue. Bill Williams said, why not? We've been sober going on 2 years. Said, we don't have to. They said, okay. And they waited. Nothing happened. But then they went down there. And they walked. Said, we got to go. And they went down there and everybody ran out and shook their hand. They had found out that everything was all right. Bill W. and Dr. Bob and them, they said this is a spiritual program. They broke down what AA was. You could go down in South Africa. I didn't know this because one day my sponsor sent me. He said, you've been locked up on the south side. There's a new group a little north of the Loop called the Mustard Seed Group. And you're going down there. Said, Judge Walter Kelly. Look, I said, another Irishman in my life. These guys breaking through. Quinn, these guys got some. There are people in this world that care. It ain't like I was raised up on in Shelby, Mississippi. They were saying I was raised up on with old traditions talking about under 244 years of slavery, over 130 years of segregation, political exploitation, and humiliation. But I found out that there were a lot of people had died. There were a lot of white people had died that I could go to churches wherever I wanted to if I was a Christian or professor. I could go here. There were people dying. Francis Quinn put his head on the land in that post office, and he brought me through, started giving me faith and trust, and saved myself, and I didn't know it. Things that started happening, and those steps and when I found out those steps that took those 100, they were not written. They walked and talked and prayed and laid and concentrated and meditated. Yes, they walked, and those steps came into being. They had a lady there writing them. And they said, this is what it is. And they went through all that because those steps had taken them. They were in them. And those steps had jumped off of that wall that those people said couldn't jump off of those walls. Yeah, those steps are alive. The 12-step spiritual principles are not just words up there. They are living words. They are alive, and they ain't no words. They are spiritual, sent and launched into people. And I know they jumped off the wall. They flew off the wall. They were painted off the wall. I'd go to my mother's house and paint, and I would paint those steps, swim in swimming pools after I got sober, swim them into my life. I would walk 18 miles, I've done it, and walk them into my life, prayed them into my life. Those steps flew, danced into my life. I would dance and think about them. Those steps are living just like you. I want to thank you after I said this. I want to thank you for letting me know. I started coming in here and I quit smoking, and I was thin as a Gillette razor blade. And then when I came in and started liking myself, I quit smoking, weighing 119 pounds. Then I started eating everything that wasn't nailed down. And then I went up to 191 pounds. Me, 4x9. It was 191. I didn't like me. But this program will do anything for you that's needed to be done. It ain't about drinking or sniffing or snorting. They yelled and tell about it on page 19. We feel, that's what they said after they walked and talked. up and there's a chapter called There is a Solution. They say, we feel that the elimination of our using or drinking is but a beginning, the primary purpose, period. And Ted told me a period means the end of a thought. And it started again, and so no argument or debating over it, or tug or war. Drop your end and see what happened to the other end. They'd fall out of being. And they said, and the next line started with a big capital A. A, after you quit drinking and start counting the years, I've been sober 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, and parading all that time out there. It says, A, much more important. Look, that time ain't so. It says, after you learn that drinking ain't it, A, period, a much more important demonstration of our principles lies before us, that they were reading up here, lies before us in our respective homes, occupation, and in all our affairs. Showing, scoring, faith, trust, confidence. I've seen people get out of wheelchairs that they say would never get out the medical society. I've seen people start feeding themselves that they said they would never be fed. You got to bed fed them, you got to feed them. I've seen things happen here that they said couldn't happen. I've seen people learn what love is. I know what love of another is. Never knew it. I thought hugging and kissing and carrying on, all that stuff, that was love. But I heard it here somewhere that began to come through this air, this spiritual rooms like this. It said love of another means an infinite delight in another's well-being. Please hear me. An infinite, no limitations, an infinite delight in another's well-being. You love your dog, your cat? Do you love your delight? Love of yourself, an infinite delight in my well-being. Love. I'm beginning to know what love is. I began to know what honesty means. I know, beginning to learn what the preachers used to talk about and still talk about it. I couldn't get it. They talk about this God, higher power, didn't create no junk. No junk at all. I try to make junk out of the creation, but no junk. No junk at all. So everything's created is good. They are my sisters and brothers. No limits. I've been limited. I got dogs saved my life in the Second World War. She wasn't playing. She knew what love was. She knew I was messed up on a mountain down in right here in Tennessee on maneuvers. Couldn't get off, drunk, scared of heights. Went up there drunk, had been feeding her on maneuvers. She saved my life, licked my face, laid on top of me and curled up. The sergeant, everybody talked about it. They said, that dog saved your life. A dog. So I know who my brothers and sisters are today. I am learning. Not just human beings. I don't hear many preachers talk about that. They limited. I've been limited all my stripes. Every dog, frog, hawk. Frog, I see you down there, frog. Every dog, frog, hawk. And you know I'm talking about love, frog, right with you. Because that's goes, my sisters and brothers. Every dog, frog, hog, log. Every cat, bat, gnat, rat. Every snail, every whale. Every ant, every plant, every bird, every bee, every rose bush, every tree. I want to thank you all for freeing me, and I'm not talking about Abraham Lincoln freedom through proclamations and declarations, but through association, development, desire, self-determination, and self-realization. Find out who you are, so when you get up to that fourth step, you'll know and work in honesty and try to find out what you are doing or should be doing. The serenity prayer will be a solution getter for a regulator. Yes, find out who you are. Find out. Yes, I am rich today. I am rich and only got about 3 or 4 quarters in my pocket. And out half of that. But I don't believe all the money that John D. Onassis and Getty and those new billionaires over there in the Middle East with all that oil and those new billionaires over in Tokyo with those computers, all their money together couldn't begin to buy the treasures that you are presenting to chumps like me. Presenting, you can't give me nothing, Ted said. AA can't give you your life, black fool. So you got to reach out and get a grip. And when you get this grip, you ain't going to never slip, tip, or flip. You got a grip there. Now I can go to bed at night and sleep. I can sleep without tossing and turning. And when I wake up, I can get up and say good morning instead of good God is this morning. I want to thank you all for allowing me to thank up. Look at some. Oh, you are. Thank you for allowing me to come here. You all gave me something to come down here.